So Sam just ran into a fan, and then she asked, "Are you Sam?" And I'm like, "No, she is." JK.
So we're gonna go home right now and I'm gonna show you how to edit an indoor shot that has no windows and no natural light in a coffee shop.
Yeah, we're in a mall actually.
Yeah. Hi guys, so here we have all the pictures I've downloaded to Adobe Lightroom. How Victor and I categorize our photos is that we put them on a folder called Instagram, and then we label all our subfolders by the place or location, just because I can't do things by date because we shoot so much that I have no frame of reference unless there's an image or a location associated with it. All right, so let's get started. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to edit a indoor cafe setting. This cafe doesn't have any windows, so I'm going to teach you how to create something that is good. We're going to just take a look at all the photos. What I generally like to do first is to whittle down roughly which photos I like the most. So what I'll do is I will filter out the ones that I like by starring them. You can just press the keys 1, 2, 3, 4. I usually give it a 1 star if I like it. So I rate all the ones I like first. I just do a quick glance over, generally not focusing too much on the small details like our faces, but I'll just quickly grab the ones I like. Sometimes there's a ton, but it's okay because later I will take another sweep through again and start to, so that I can see which ones I like the most. This is just by first impressions, of course. So here we have around 40 images. Now I'll click the 1 star. Okay. So here I've whittled it down to 15 images. What I'll do is I'll go into develop. And then the first thing I'll do for all my Instagram photos is crop it to a 4:5 because I think it's easier to then whittle down my selection just purely based on composition. So first I usually edit one photo and see if I like it. And I have a few presets that I've made, but I usually don't follow them. I have made this one called Classic Sam's Hong Kong, but it's only worked a few times for me, and I think this is more of a daylight setting. So I might just start from scratch. Yeah, see, it's very orange tones, but this doesn't work because this is more for a daylight. It's a daylight preset as opposed to this indoor light. Because this indoor light is a bit more white but very dark, what we're going to do is we're going to first expose it. And then I'm going to add a little bit of contrast, lower the highlights, just because the lights here, you see, are very bright. So what we want to do is even out all the light tones. Boost up the shadows a bit. I'm also going to put down the highlights. I'm going to bring up the blacks because what you see, these tiles in the back behind Laura's head, is actually a dark green, but you can't see that in the photo right now. I'm going to bring the clarity up. I like using dehaze a bit just because it gives more definition to the photo. Vibrance, I like to bump it up because my photos generally tend to be a bit more on the colorful bright side. You can see like it really helps to add to the photo, but we don't want to go too overboard. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Saturation, I'll bump up for now. Generally what I do is I just like to play around and then I tweak it after. Here I'm also editing the curves, putting down the highlights, putting down the lights, and then I'm boosting up the darks and the shadows. Alright, so there you have it. I generally like where this is going in terms of the greens. You can see the shadows are boosted up and then the highlights are lower. So now you see the greens are a lot more saturated and the colors are looking more solid than before. Here we're going to go into what do you call this? The single colored edits. And I'm just going to individually tweak colors now. This is where I do most of the color tweaking because I feel like you can work a lot more with the color palette. So here I'm going to put the saturation up for the aqua tones. For luminance, basically this pushes down the color or brings it up so it becomes a bit more brighter. I usually like playing with this a lot because this is how you can draw the eye in with the color here. By the way, I'm sorry, I'm not used to narrating what I'm when I'm editing. Here we go. I like to put the yellows down a bit because since it is an indoor setting, I prefer not to have the yellows too harsh. We do want to make it indoor lighting look close to natural daylight as possible. So this is why I'm taking down the yellows a bit. But I guess you do want to keep a bit of yellow just because we have some skin tones showing, so we don't want to desaturate too much or else it looks kind of like dead people. Okay, I generally like where this is going right now. So this is the split toning. I love using split toning because it gives a drastic contrast to all your images. For this one, usually for the highlights, I usually focus on the oranges or the cool tones, depending on the type of image. For night ones, I usually have it set to the cool tones, sometimes to the pink tones, depending on the photo. But I'll show you that another day. This, I'm going to bump it up a little bit with the orange. If you bump it up a lot, this is what happens. It becomes, all the whites become whatever tone that you set it to. So I'm just going to bump it up a little. I like more subtle edits. I don't want anything too drastic and too pink. And here for shadows, I might bump it to green actually. Let me see. Because usually I don't do green, but because, the darks in this photo are more on the green side, and since I'm doing a green color theme, I do want to push the green tones higher. So this exaggerates the colors a bit more. Usually it's not green, but I'll make an exception for this one. I usually don't add grain because I don't really like that vintage vibe, but some people do. And you can also see, I don't know what our ISO setting is on here, but our ISO is on 2000 already, so I don't think I need any grain. Here we are looking at the transform tools. I really like playing with the vertical, horizontal, and the aspect ratio of things, especially since a lot of our photos feature more architectural shots, so I like to play with this to straighten images. I use wide lens a lot for our shots. I like to use this part to correct the distortion because it does tend to stretch the image a bit. And I usually use the axis, the horizontal and vertical axis of my photo to gauge whether or not something is straight. If it's looking bulbous, then I use the distortion tool to push it back to the straight edge. You can use this constraint to image so it keeps within your canvas size, or else you do see some of the white parts leaking out. Okay. I'm generally liking where this is going, so what I'll do is, you see here under my preset area, you can see here, you can press copy. Okay, you see this copy settings. I generally set it to all. Press copy. I highlight all my images because I shot this in a similar setting, same time, and we're roughly standing in the same position. What I'll do is I'll copy all of them, and I'll come here on this side, on the right side, and I'll press sync. What this does is, okay, then it asks me if I want to synchronize all settings, which is yes. What this allows me to do is batch edit to every single image. So as you can see here, Lightroom is helping me to translate that first preset setting to all my images. This really helps me to speed up my editing process because now I don't have to go to every single photo and copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, but I can have it for every single photo. And then what I can do is then do minor tweaks to each image. So you can see, now I'm selecting the second one, you can see, here I'll show you the before and after. It's a before and after, so it's taken the first picture and copied it to my second one for the preset. So what now I like to do is I like to now go through all my 1-star images and filter it with 2 stars. So I like this one, the first one I did. Did I just star everything too? I think I did. But because everything is more clear after I edit it, now I can actually see the faces, what we're doing. And now what I'll do is, I think I selected everything except 2 images, but that helps. Now I filtered it. I'm going to go in and individually edit each one quickly and then further filter out my images. I generally don't like these ones now because I don't like that there's that spacing between me and Laura feels kind of bare. You just see a table right in the middle. So I'm filtering it out to 3. A lot better. So now we have 6 to choose from. What I'll do is I'll literally tweak every single one of these until I figure out which one I like. And what I do is I generally like to ask Victor for help because I like a second opinion. After you've been editing for so long, it's nice to have someone with a fresh eye to take a look at your images, see which one fits. I also use a app called where I can, it's a layout tool for your Instagram. So I like to just screenshot my edits very quickly and then put them in to see which one fits better with my feed. So sometimes I determine by what photo it sits next to. All right, so here we go. Literally, I just tweak all those little details I just mentioned to you. There's nothing new I'm going to teach every single time. If you want me to do more of these tutorials, it's literally going to be the same thing over and over again. But it's literally just like back and forth between all these tools to find out what looks the most comfortable to the eye. I know a lot of people like to do very crazy edits on Instagram now. I'm going to lower my sharpening. I don't know why it's so high. But I prefer to keep my edits more on the natural side. The gradient filter. What you do is you can click it and drag it across things, and here. So you can press O, which is show selected mask overlay. That's the shortcut for it. And it turns red. So whatever you see that's red here is going to be affected by this filter. So I'm going to press O for now so you don't see it. So what I like to do is I like to balance off my lights and darks by putting a filter on top. So sometimes, for example, if you're indoors and you want your ceilings to be brighter, I usually can then edit it here. So you can edit it. I'm gonna right now set to my temperature is set quite warm, so I'm gonna cool it back down again. I can boost it up. See, boost it up, turns super bright. So all you see here is what is affected by my exposure. So I'm just gonna subtly tune it so that it does get a bit brighter. I like my highlights low because I still want these globe lights to be quite on the matte side. I've boosted up the shadows a bit. This is just a preset that I've had, and I just kept it because I'm too lazy to change it. And I do have my saturation on slightly. So I'm going to do another one for the floor because oh, that's actually quite nice. Actually, let me see if I lower it. This will mask the whole, kind of like that matte look. See, this is what that mask is doing. Usually I don't cover the whole thing, but this is what it looks. Oh, I'm gonna keep it. And then I'm gonna do one at the bottom because I want the floor to pop because I really like these green and white tiles. Personally, I don't mind a skew or distortion in my photos. Some people have commented that they don't like how, like for example, you see these bulbs, you can see that there's a big distortion in the sphere. I really don't care. People like to always comment about my feet because my feet usually tend to be in the corners for tight shots, like my plane photos, and they say, oh, this girl's feet are so big. I'm like, that's what happens when you use a wide angle lens. Alright, so I've now 4-starred them to one of these 3, so I'm going to select one of them and post this on Instagram. Here we go. You can see the comparisons here, the before and after. If you liked this tutorial and want to see more of these, please like, comment, and subscribe below.
See ya.
Bye!